Good morning, everyone. This is going to be part 2 of my discussion on balance changes I would like to see to Tekken 7. In the previous video we talked about nerfs that I feel might be a little bit necessary, and I want to contrast that with a bit more of a positive tone, talking about the characters who might need a little bit of help in the shape of buffs in this video. Thank you so much for watching the previous video. We had a lot of great comments and discussions on that video. Slightly lower approval rating than I typically get for a video, but that's fine when a video is, not information but mainly opinions, so that's to be expected. I think it sounded a little bit whiny, unfortunately, when I watched it back, so I'm sorry about that. I also looked very tired. I suffer from insomnia occasionally, but last night I slept like a baby. And what I mean by that isn't that I woke up 6 times screaming and then shat myself. I actually slept quite well. It's a weird expression. But yeah, let's put a little bit more of a positive spin on it and talk about the characters who I think might need some buffs right now. I want to start talking about Yoshimitsu. It's going to be my first character here. Now, I actually made a full video, almost 25 minutes long, on why I think Yoshimitsu's design is a little bit problematic. And I made that at the same time as I made my full guide on Yoshimitsu, which you will find on this channel. The reason I didn't upload it is because I don't want somebody to come to the channel and watch a guide on Yoshi and be very happy and have fun learning a new character, and then have to immediately watch a video about why his design might be problematic. So I decided not to upload it. But the main thing that I would like to see change with Yoshi is that I think his combo game is unnecessarily awful. Most other characters in the game have combos that feel like they make sense. They have some sort of mechanical flow to it that feels intentional. Even if they don't get super high damage, they can get half decent damage and then maybe modify that for wall carry or OP if they want to. But with Yoshi, he is locked into these pretty awkward low damage options with almost no wall carry unless he wants to do very janky things with fly stance and stuff like that. So I have two suggested changes for what you could do to help his combo game a little bit, and I do think that's necessary. The first one is that I think his power crush when he is in no sword stance, he jumps forward and goes into flee normally and walks on his swords, but when you're in no sword stance, he just does that initial powerful mid hit, which is a pretty good move, and it works really well in combos. I don't think he really needs the stilt move all that much. I don't think it's a very well designed power crush, so maybe give him access to his no sword stance power crush, which I think is a better move, when he has his swords out as well, and then you could use that as a powerful combo tool as well to make his combos flow better. Because when he is in no sword stance, he does get a couple of combos because of that move that feel a lot more natural to me. The other suggestion that I have is that his combo ender right now is you do back 2-1, then you press 1+2 to go into Kincho, and you do 4-2. Back 2-1 is this move where he swings them really high into the air with his sword. He actually has a powerful spin move from that stance that you don't get to use all that much because you rarely are able to launch your opponent high enough that it has time to hit. And what I would like to see here is maybe you make it so he can do, after a launch, back 2-1 and then Kincho 4 for the spin at the beginning of the combo. That's a lot of damage at the beginning of the combo. It's going to allow you to spin your opponent pretty early for something like 40 damage. Or a bit more, and then you would be able to modify that for wall carry if you wanted to, or maybe do a damage ender, and it would feel a lot more like a real Tekken combo with some conversion options. The problem right now, like I said, is that if you try and do that, the spin move won't hit because it's too slow and the opponent will hit the ground before it connects, and so it's a pretty easy modification to make. I think it would work better this way because you really want to front load your combos with damage in Tekken because of the way damage scaling works. And if this is a concept you haven't thought about before, it's basically like this. The damage goes down, it gets scaled down as the combo gets longer, and that means that if you, for example, have a theoretical combo in which you want to do a really big hit that's going to do 50 damage and you want to do like a single jab that's going to do 10, you want to do the heavy hit at the beginning of the combo, because if you decrease the damage of the heavy hit by, say, 20%, that's going to be 10 damage, but if you decrease the damage of a jab by 20%, it's only 2 damage. And so the difference there is damage that you lose if you do powerful hits at the end of the combo as opposed to at the beginning. So that's my suggestions for Yoshi. He has a couple of other, you know, bits and pieces, but the main thing that stood out to me when I learned the character was I felt that his combo game was unnecessarily awkward and low damage, and I honestly think that Yoshi deserves to be considered kind of a low tier character in this game. He's lower mid, I think most people think, but I honestly think he lives in the same tier as characters like Lars and Lee and Miguel and Chloe right now. I honestly think he's quite weak right now, but that's you know, just my opinion. But I think we can all agree that his combos could use a little bit of work. Speaking of Lars, he's definitely a character who needs a little bit of help in this game, and a lot of people have suggested a lot of changes for what you can do to help Lars. One of the most popular videos I ever made, it almost has like 50,000 views, which is a lot for my channel, was my discussion video on why I think Lars's design is a little bit problematic right now. So we're not going to beat a dead horse, but I think the change, if I'm just going to suggest something simple right now that I think would really make a big difference for him, is, you know, his new down forward 2-1 is this spin move where he swings his arms that has replaced his old counter hit tool, down forward 2. You could actually very easily, without making a huge change to this, make him a lot stronger by making the initial hit of that down forward 2-1 a counter hit launcher, because then he could fish for counter hits with that. It would be very powerful, but he would still retain this powerful spin move that he has, and then you wouldn't have to give him back his old move and you know, change the notation of the spin move that he currently has in his combos. You could just make that first initial hit of that string the counter hit tool that he needs, and then I think you've done him a lot of favors already. So that's my main suggestion. But if you want to hear a long discussion on Lars, then go back and check out that video I made, which is called Why Lars Doesn't Work, and you'll have a lot of opinions from me on Lars and his design currently. The next character we're going to talk about is Miguel. Maybe not a huge surprise. One of the characters that I play, the only character I'm going to talk about today that I really play a lot right now. And I've also made videos talking about Miguel before, but the main thing, again, if I'm going to give you one very concrete thing, is that Miguel is supposed to be a poke-based character, but he has very short range and kind of weak jabs, and you don't want to have a very poke-focused character who has weak jabs, because your jabs are your most important pokes a lot of the time. So I think he needs a little bit more range on his standard jabs. You could give them maybe a little bit more damage too, and then they would be really good, because the second hit has that great tracking property as well. And then you've done Miguel a huge favor already. If you want to make him really strong and you want to make him, you know, give him a change that's going to really boost him up, then you could look at his down forward 1 string. You could go back to the older days of Miguel, where he had a lot less disadvantage on his down forward 1. I think it was actually ±0 at one point, which is very good. But it wouldn't break the character. Or you could make it so that the down forward 1-1 version of the string jails, similar to how Katarina's string with the same notation does, and then he wouldn't have to risk getting ducked and launched when he is applying his main pressure string. But those are the quick few changes I would suggest for Miguel. I'm going to have a drink here because I'm going a little bit husky. Alright. The next character I want to talk about is Lee, and I'm going to throw this one to you guys mainly because I've tried to learn Lee and understand why he doesn't seem to be working out right now, and I haven't figured it out yet. I need to philosophize a little bit more on Lee to sort of get a hold on it. So those of you out there who know more about Lee and understand him better, maybe you could inform the rest of us, including me, in the comments about what you think he needs and why he is currently considered quite weak. There's one thing I think is odd about Lee that I would like looked at, and it's the fact that his wild standing launcher isn't supposed to give you a full combo. You're supposed to get this guaranteed 4-4-3, which is that powerful kick move for a chunk of guaranteed damage, but it's extremely difficult to do, kind of unnecessarily. It's obviously something that you're supposed to do right there, but it's very, very hard to pull off, and I think you could make that easier. Just would be one thing to help him a little bit. Lee's problem right now isn't the fact that he can't launch while standing reliably. He has a lot of other issues, I presume, but that's just one thing that I know about that I think is a little bit odd, especially because it's a character that has a hop kick. And what I mean here is that if you look at Gigas, for example, he's obviously a character who isn't supposed to have a very fast while standing launcher. He initially didn't actually. His while standing 3 is something that they added in a patch. I don't think he had that in his original version. He's only supposed to get a chunk of damage and a knockdown in the shape of his while standing 2-3, I think it is. And then if you block something that is very minus, like a hell sweep or something, then you can launch with Gigas. And that's cool because Gigas doesn't have a hop kick. If he had a 15 frame hop kick, then you could just do that hop kick from while standing anyway, and so that aspect of his design disappears. With Lee, he does have a fast while standing launcher, but it doesn't really work because it's awkward and you can't really do the 4-4-3 that reliably. But he does have a hop kick, so it's not that he's not supposed to be able to launch from while standing, because he could theoretically use the hop kick is what I'm getting to. So he either needs to not have a hop kick, which would make him weaker. He should definitely be allowed to retain that. Or you could just make the while standing fast launcher that he has actually lead to proper damage. It should be either or for the design to feel coherent, because it's those two things are going in different directions, let's say. But like I said, weigh in on Lee in the comments and let me know what you think he needs, because he looks so cool. He has a lot of personality. I mean, he's one of the coolest looking characters in the game right now. He deserves to have more than a player base than he does, and I want to try and figure out why he doesn't right now, because he's definitely underused. The last character we're going to talk about, we mentioned him briefly, is Gigas. And this is another character that I talked about in a separate video, but he is a little bit too weak in the close-up game and a little bit too easy to shut down. And so the main thing I think he needs, like I said in my video, is that you could make his down forward 3 1+2 1+2, allow the final hit of that string to be a mid, which would give him a truly dangerous fast counter hit tool up close, and that would mean that you would have to be a lot more careful when you're trying to bully and harass Gigas to death in the close-up game. Because right now when he's applying that string, he can get launched on block by just doing the first 2 hits, and he can get ducked and launched by doing the 3rd hit, because it's a duckable high. And you don't want to have one of these very usable good strings, but you have to put yourself at a significant risk of eating full combo every time you apply it. It's something that both Gigas and Miguel suffer from. High risk, high reward, yeah, that's a design you can go with, but when good players in the game tend to focus so much more on proper defense than offense, high risk, high reward usually means that sometimes you just launch yourself. So that's the final suggestion I'm going to make here. There are a couple of other characters that might need to be looked at, but I'm going to mention here quickly that there's a reason I didn't bring up Kuma or Lucky Chloe, who are the two sort of weak characters that I haven't discussed, and that's because I actually think those characters are kind of fine right now. Chloe has a lot of really cool stuff. Her normal jab string is high mid, which is super good. She has a very good, 2 very good mids in the shape of her standing 4 and her down forward 1. She has a couple of decent lows, some very decent counter hits with her back 1, her back 4. Her combo makes sense. She can convert to the wall. She gets good damage at the wall. She has standard launchers like 2 different hop kicks, a down forward 2. She has 3 different very decent launchers from while standing. So I think she's a very complete package. It just doesn't amount to a character that is super strong. But that's kind of fine if the character design feels complete and feels like it functions. No matter how much you balance patch a game, it's always going to have a couple of weak characters, and that's perfectly acceptable as long as those characters feel like a complete design and you can have fun playing them if you really like them. And I think both Chloe and Kuma are kind of fine right now. I honestly think Kuma, out of the really sort of weak bottom tier characters, is probably one of the most powerful ones. It does really, really well against me specifically. Even though I know a lot about Kuma, I tend to get destroyed because I think that character can pull out some very scary damage, has some decent lows, extremely good range obviously. So that's the reason I didn't talk about those 2 characters specifically. Let me know what you think about this. Thank you so much for watching this video, and look forward to more Tekken content very soon. I want to ask a question before I wrap this video up. During the last week, have written several page-long film review. It's something I used to do when I was younger, is write film reviews, because my dream when I was a kid was that I really wanted to be a screenwriter. And so I think a lot about movies, and I watch a lot about movies, and I'm sort of on the fence about whether or not I should record that and put it on the channel, because I know this isn't a channel about film, it's about you know, Tekken. But is that something that would be interesting to hear me talk about? Because then I might record that video and upload it during the week. But thank you for answering that question, and for asking your own questions. Thank you for watching. I'll see you guys again very soon. Bye bye for now.